ジョイは日本語を専攻してたんだよって言ったら Oh, that's cheating! みたいな言ってて
Welcome to the lazyfluency podcast, where we have casual conversations switching between English and Japanese so that you can learn from and what's along the way. I'm Joey.
And I'm Miami.
And the topic of the day is elitism. But before we get into that, make sure to like, subscribe, follow, and drop a review to the platform you're listening on. We appreciate the support. And with that out of the way, elitism. You are doing Japanese wrong. If you learn that way, you will ruin your Japanese. If you listen to that kind of Japanese, it's bad for your learning. Today we're talking about elitism in language learning in general, but also a specific focus on Japanese. And I feel particularly that elitism is more prominent in Japanese than any other language. We've done an episode before focusing on perfectionism, but the difference I see between elitism and perfectionism is perfectionism is self-imposed on you, and elitism is imposed on other people. By elitism, do you have any idea what I'm referring to with your own personal experience with the English language learning? Have you had any experience where you felt, whether it be when you're learning English and you're checking out videos made by Japanese people talking about English, where people had very strong views about what it means to learn English, or in your personal experiences where if you've messed up using English in some setting where you've been heavily criticized for doing so?
ちょっと待ってね、確認だけど、そもそもこのエリティズムっていうのは、英語で喋れるっていうことが、ステータスとして考えられてるっていうことはちょっとまた違うってこと？
Oh, no, it totally is. And they're kind of tied into each other. I saw, it was funny, this isn't what prompted, or maybe it was subconsciously what prompted this video. Maybe you shared this video or somebody else shared this video, or I was just on making a post on the the Instagram for Lazy Fluency, but it was a small thing just saying if as a Japanese speaker, this was a Japanese video for Japanese audience, and it was one person was speaking in English, and he had really not as advanced in English, and it was saying Americans would think this English is great, but then it was saying from a Japanese perspective, the bar to have good English was much higher, and you need to be much more fluent. And this made me think about how a lot of times when people are learning languages, the people that they are trying to get respect from or understanding from is not people that speak the language that they're speaking, but the other learners of the language. Does that make sense? For example, when you've been learning English, do you feel especially you've been on programs that have been using more and more English, and I know around you have people who are at different levels of English. Do you feel like English is a status symbol in Japan?
なんだろうね。今、ちょっと、なんて言うんだろう。シチュエーションとしては、なんて言うんだろう。特別なんだけど、普段この世の中で生きてて、やっぱり帰国子女とかだったり、あと海外に留学何年間行ってましたとかだと、それ自体がステータスになってて、でなんでかっていうと、それ履歴書に書いて会社とかね、就活するときに有利になるとか、あとそもそも帰国子女であるっていうことがみんなから帰国子女なのすごいすごいみたいなね、そういうのはあるね。未だにっていうか、もうそれを目指してる人も結構いて、だから前の仕事、今もやってんだけど、その仕事で一人お父さんと喋ったのね、この English と Japanese のチュートリングね、仕事で。でそのお父さんが言ってたのが、息子をアメリカに住まわせて帰国子女にしたいみたいな言ってて、やっぱりそういうステータスあるんだなっていうのはね、そこに思ったよね。そう。
Do you feel like English learners? English learners learning English. Yes, Japanese people learning English. So you're talking about a status symbol as being, I don't know what the equivalent of kikokushijo in English is a Japanese person who goes abroad and then comes back, basically, and most of the time is bilingual in both languages. Yeah. the whole idea of returning in itself, I feel very like nationalistic about. But
まあ、
and
あと
anyways,
あれだよ。
sorry, go ahead.
まだね、なんだよ、質問には答えてないんだけど、その質問に答えると、今、ステータスに感じるかみたいなやつだと、まあ、その周りで結構、なんていうの、周りの人たちは、まあ、平均より全然めちゃめちゃ喋れる人が多いから、なんか、その、英語が喋れるっていうことに、ステータスはあんまり感じないかな。でも本当にめちゃめちゃ全く喋れない人が隣にいたりすると、その人はちょっと恥ずかしいし喋れないからっつって私が喋らないといけないから、まあステータスっていうよりかは責任感を感じるよね。
And do you feel that's mostly like just your perception of it, or do you feel, for example, if you were to use English around your friends, do you think you're gonna get like animosity for using English, or they're gonna be like, oh, that's cool? As in, oh gosh, what is?
Do I feel like I'm cool?
Feelings of like being attacked or anger, basically, or hatred. I can't remember. There's a word for this in Japanese.
まあでもね、一部の人は絶対思ってるよ。なんか She's like America boo とか絶対多分思ってる人はいるんだよ。そんなの気にしてらんないよね。勝手に言ってる。
So I'm actually talking about more a little different things. So obviously with I think as an American, you will get the like you know Japanese, you're a weeb thing. The phenomenon I'm talking about is actually within the niche of people learning Japanese. I feel that not only is like Japanese kind of like your Japanese level sort of a status symbol, but people are very, very specific about viewing Japan. It might be people. I mean, it's like online. It's hard to say. I don't personally think this represents most learners, probably. Like every time I've had like met Japanese people learning like in person, I really don't feel this way. But online, where you have, in my opinion, I think a lot more neurotic people just to tend to congregate in groups, you tend to have a lot of like people who view Japanese as a form of competition, basically.
And like完璧にとかね。
No, literally, there are whole stories, and I'm not going to call anybody out, but I'm thinking.
なんか、これ。
Who, like, yeah, go ahead.
この話があるんだけど、よくさ、日本とか、英語圏じゃない人が、英語の能力を判定するテストで、TOEIC とか TOEFL とかあるのね。多分聞いたことあると思うけど。
Yeah.
で、そういうテストで満点取りましたっていうのをよく売りにする人がいるんだよ。例えば本の著者とかの人たちは、僕は連続5回TOEIC、TOEFL満点取りましたとかね、900何点ですとかね。で、なんかそれステータスになってんだけど、でもそういう人って必ずしもペラペラじゃないんだよ。なんか YouTube で見たのが満点取ったのになんか全然喋れませんみたいな人がいて、なんかそういうなんて言うんだろうね、ステータスみたいになってるね。うん。
Something I feel interesting about the distinction you're talking about, or in the Japanese perspective, is to me, I understand where that is coming from. Because not only is like it a status symbol for many people, it can open up job opportunities and also open up like an increase in income and a bunch of other opportunities. And like every country, English is important because everybody speaks English. But the reason I think Japanese is interesting and why I think maybe Japanese might be particularly like it might feel to me why it has a like very high level of people who I would say fall into like the elitist, like Japanese is competition, learning like speaking Japanese is art. You disrespect Japanese for not knowing it perfectly, and you should not speak Japanese if your Japanese is not perfect, is because I think it's learned as you're into coffee, right? You like coffee?
I like coffee.
Yeah, and a lot of people like coffee, I think. But the thing is, there's a whole community of people who like get really into making coffee, and they're not doing it for like a job or anything like that. They're doing it as a hobby. And a lot of times when you have a hobby plus online, I think you have like an elevated level of people who tend to be very neurotic, who start to get something. And I feel like for Japan, it's weird. It's intersection of most people learning Japanese who are in the West, like, you know, the internet that I interact with, who use English, are doing it out of hobby. There is no actual need. Or they're doing it. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
違う、そうだねって。
Yeah. And they're also doing it out for many people as well. I feel like, especially people who tend to be online, like obviously everybody likes to be good something. And it's very interesting because I actually haven't heard in like the Japanese learning space. And maybe this is the way I feel about it, but I do feel like it's primarily men. I do know women learning Japanese, but generally speaking, when I'm thinking people, I'm thinking about a lot of it's men, and I feel like a lot of the communities of Japanese learners are surrounded on men. You have these environments where people like they literally will spend like they'll be like, I've put in, I think we talked about this a little before with like consistency, but you have people who I think go off the deep end where they feel like they have no other thing going for them in life, and they want to prove to themselves like they want to like they imagine their vision of them being in Japan or whatever it is, or they kind of put their whole self-worth into this idea of getting good at Japanese and putting like 10-12 hours like every day and then posting it up on different sites. I'm not really engaged with them now, but I had a conversation with some people earlier which kind of sparked this and maybe the other discussion. And I feel like that's another reason why I view it literally different than like, you know, you're talking about like TOEFL or like people scoring high on those tests. In the Japanese language community, it's less about scoring high on tests. It's about like the elite of the elite becoming native. It's this whole obsession basically.
まあね、これもなんか面白いんだけど、そのちょうどだ、トレンディーな話題なんだけどね。私昨日の今留学生が来ててね、ハンガリーから4人来てますと。で、昨日バーベキューとハイキングに行きました。で、その、バーベキューハイキング終わった後に、その4人となんかちょっとソーシャライズしたわけよ。で、そこで言ってたのが、その、私ポッドキャストやってるんだよって言って。で、ジョイの話が出て、で、なんでそのジョイは日本語喋れるのみたいな聞かれたから、そのジョイは日本語を専攻してたんだよって言ったら、Oh, that's cheating! みたいな言ってて。
That's cheating! That's so funny!
多分日本語をなんか喋れるっていうことが、相当すごいんだろうね。で、それをなんて言うんだろう、自分の力でやらないっていうか、なんて言うんだろうね。その学校で習わずにやる自分なんていうの、学校に行かずにマスターするのはとても難しいみたいなパーセプションがあるのかな。
Yeah, moving the goalpost where it goes like no, you have to do it in this way. You have to do it with what's it called? Only reading a dictionary because you don't want to get any entertainment value from it, and you must only listen to pitch perfect like what are the karuta, the people who read the karuta lines, like the nani wazu ni sakuya kono hana, what are those people called?
そういう読む人？
いや読む人。
わかんない。カルタの読み手？わかんないけど、そんな感じじゃない？
読み手？That is, I think that's triggering my chihaya furu. It might be yomite.
Chihaya furu?
Yeah, the anime, the manga.
But
yeah, that's a hilarious. I think that's a really good example where if you say that for Spanish, for example, nobody would bat an eye. He started school. Oh, that's cool. But Japanese, if you, like I said, it's like a personal attack on somebody. Yeah, and I think that's such a good example. I don't know where the person's from that you were talking to, but I feel like it's really emblematic of how I feel a lot of the conversation about Japanese is somebody else being good Japanese is a front to you. And from the other person's perspective, a lot of the enjoyment they get about Japanese is about the flex on other people or the degrading of other people and gatekeeping other people. Being, no, you can't say you're fluent Japanese. You haven't mastered this aspect of Japanese, or you haven't mastered that aspect of Japanese, or you're like your motives, not your motives, but what's it called? Your method of learning is not serious enough. And this is what I'm talking about, I guess asking you about as well, is saying like, do you feel that aspect? Because I feel is very using Japanese. And I know you're saying like, oh, you scored in this score for TOEFL, but that's all really related to status, like generally speaking to money. The Japanese game is not a money-filled one.
まあ確かにね。ジャパニーズを喋れるってことが別になんて言うんだろう。そのサラリーが上がるとかいうそれには直接つながらないってことよね。
Yeah, exactly. And for many
Wow.
people, like just speaking Japanese alone doesn't like get you a like I said, any sort of job in itself. And even if it did, it
で
wouldn't
も
get you more than
時
if
と場合
as
に
an
よるよ
American.
ね。だってさ、それこそさ、
Yeah, but I'm
ジャ
saying
パニー
as
ズ
an American,
ジャパニーズのチュールと
I'm
か
saying
さ、
okay.
ジャパニーズのチュールをやってる人だったらさ、それこそジャパニーズなんだっけ JLPT だっけ JLPT?
JLPT, yeah.
そうがまあ N1 の先生のと N5 の先生だったら絶対 N1 の先生の方がいいじゃん。
No, what I mean is like if salary is the concern, Americans, I'm talking about a lot of Americans as an American, your salaries can be much higher doing a lot of other things for like a lot less effort comparatively to how much time it takes to like master Japanese. But I do feel like actually I have met a single Japanese person that I felt was in this category, but he was actually someone who's into the Western internet sphere of language learning, which I kind of like. It's this weird thing where there are a lot of language learning things which I do think are helping a lot of people, but like, you know, in terms of technology and ways of speeding it up. But all the people who use them and the way they talk about it, I feel is one of the most like toxic and neurotic ways I've ever heard. Like there's like people being inspired by stories of people who lock themselves in a room for 12 hours a day and fully immersing themselves, and it's like
ブッディズムの
yeah, exactly.
滝の下にいて浴びますみたいな。
To me, I feel like it's like Japanese has taken up this role of escapism and fantasy that other languages have not seemed to do, like a belief of a like better life or belief of meaning through it. And then what I realized, I think you talked about it before, is that like the phenomenon where you're really like you're working out in this sense for the validation of not the Japanese people specifically, but your other learners. But the thing is, when you get to Japan and realize they're all Japanese people, yeah, they'll give you, you know what I'm saying, you'll get your Nihongo Josus or whatever. But at the end of the day, like I think there's something I mentioned before, you're just like, you know, if you're thinking like, I put all this work in, I've done it, like, what is my reward? And like for a lot of people, there's a reward, and I'm not saying I'm not happy learning Japanese. I'm very happy that I've learned Japanese. I'm just talking about if you're like looking at this like zero sum maximum competition, I have to be the best game. It just to me always just comes up so confusing because you're just the worst you know, you're always kind of worse than natives. So it's just like all you're flexing. To me, it's like I think I used the analogy before where a bunch of Usain Bolts are in a race, and then you cross the finish line 5 seconds after them, and you beat somebody else, and then like there's hundreds of Usain Bolts ahead of you, and they're not even paying attention to you. But then you're like, yes, you suck, and you shouldn't be doing. Yeah.
なんか本当にfrom time to time でさ、そのやっぱりなんだ完璧になるのは難しいなっていうのはまあ日々思うよね。なんか。結構さ、まあ、どのラングエージでもさ、やっぱりニュアンスとかさ、いや、そんなの知らないよみたいなあるじゃん。その国に住んでないと分かんないこととかあるし、あと、それこそ、なんだろう、アメリカでバービーの映画見たのね。で、やっぱりさ、アメリカのカルチャーを知らない人だとさ、結構ジョークをさ、理解できないじゃん。で、アメリカのバービー見たときに映画館でその他の人が結構なんかめちゃめちゃ笑ってるのを笑ってるときに私は何が面白いのみたいな感じだったから結構それってやっぱりその国に住んでないとね分かんないもんなんだなっていう。
Wait, you saw Barbie in Japan?
バービーは日本で見てない。
Wait, when did you see Barbie?
アメリカで
Online?
映画館。
Wait, in New York?
そう、ニューヨークの映画館で見たんだよ。
Oh, I didn't. Oh, yeah, that's right. No, that's right. I remember that.
そう、でも、
okay, that makes sense.
ちょっとリグレットしてんのが、これ言っていいのか分かんないけどさ、オッペンハイマーっていうのはさ、日本で上映できないじゃん。
yeah,
で、だから、バービーの代わりに、あっちでオッペンハイマー見るべきだったなっていう、ちょっと後悔があるんだけど。
Yeah, you probably could have got some historical background. You do remind me of this did remind me of like a lot of the language, kind of what I would say like ignore the motive or end goal or reason and in search for this ideal optimization strategy kind of learning that's happening, where like you let people like, oh no, culture, language, context, I don't care about those things. Just give me an Anki deck and I will do 500 a day and I will be a language master. And I feel like your Barbie example is such a good example of like some of the obvious pitfalls. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
日々思うのがさ、そのね、まあ、例えばフランス語習ってるんだったらフランスのとか、まあスパニッシュやってるんだったらスペインじゃなくて、まあ、他の国でもいいけど映画とかだったりドラマっていうか見ると結構カルチャーが分かってくる気がするね。
Yeah,
なんか
but I actually sorry, go ahead.
ごめんなさい。アメリカのドラマとか映画でよくプロムとかあるじゃん。ハイスクールとかね、そういう場面の時にプロムが出てきて、アメリカってプロムあるんだとかわかるじゃん。でもそれを暗記デック、500 cards a day やってる人だと、プロムっていうなんていうの概念があるっていうのもわからないじゃん。
I mean, I guess this type of person isn't like the main focus of like what I'm thinking about in my head, but I do think that doing like we've been talking about this about like goals and having like reasons and purpose for learning it. Like when you reframe language learning as a thing that literally doesn't even have a pragmatic goal nor a other goal, like there's no goal associated with it. It literally is like you make the goal the optimization, if that makes any sense, of this like strategy to attack Japanese. Well, like, do you intend to live in Japan? No. Do you intend to like do anything with Japanese? No. Do you listen to other stuff? It was like, no. And it's like, well, what are we doing here? But one thing that I do feel like is a good example of how I kind of view this is people who go on very extreme diets. Well, they'll like say, I'm going to only eat 200 calories a day for a year. And then realizing that at some point you're not going to be able to maintain this diet and you're going to go back into your normal life and you will most likely do what's it called, rebounding, where you you gain your weight back because for a lot of physiological reasons. And I feel like very similar way about like Japanese work. If your process is not such that it's something that you'll maintain, or you're doing stuff that's significantly outside the boundary of something that you'd actually like to do or enjoy doing, then yeah, you're not going to lose your language or whatever. But I really feel like you are severely hurting yourself. It might not be as bad as dieting because you're not going to go back up to your original weight, in this case, not knowing any Japanese. But and I actually just quick question: do you consume like any like English learning related content?
Learning?
Yeah.
そうsecond language learners のためのみたいな。
Yeah. Like focus towards Japanese about English.
いや、最近はないかもしれない。最近はなんかポッドキャストもまあ You listen to のポッドキャストとかだったり、ドラマとかも The Office 見てたりドワイトはいいね、マジで。まあそれは置いといて
Yeah.
だから別に language learner のためのコンテンツは見てないかもしれない。
Yeah, I used to watch some. It's never like the biggest category I was into, but what you realize, especially with the YouTube recommendation system, is like when you watch one thing, it just keeps you recommending more, and it can completely reframe how you want to like and how you view language learning in general. And when you stop watching all the videos and you get out of that, you realize that wait, I had a very skewed view due to like an algorithm that was feeding me this, and I feel like with my experience being in Panama right now has also given me a newfound appreciation for language. And I think specifically was Spanish in general. I told you with my journey with Spanish, where a lot of times I have like in my head this idea that I did have that one example of somebody who was kind of an asshole. But generally speaking, I've noticed where most people I speak to, and there's quite a lot because like the amount of people that visit my house on a daily basis is like really high because my grandma has way too many friends. But what I noticed is aside from like the minority people, the majority of people immediately like don't even point out and like in my like that I have like an American accent in my Spanish. It's not like super strong or whatever. But as you know what I'm saying, if you're Jap like if you're Nikkei or whatever and you have any accent as a Japanese person, you're gonna get roasted by other Japanese people. I had a friend who's like I think a doctor now or sixth year or whatever, final year, who lived abroad, went to high school in the US and then college in the US as well. And he's very, very high level, obviously Japanese dude. But the amount of like shit he gets from the Japanese people for having at times just like one weird word here or there. I remember him saying a quote where he's like, I go to Japan and my Japanese is bad. And I go to America, my English is bad. I've lost my native language. I no longer have a native language. At least I felt like with Spanish, I didn't feel that was the case. I'm saying it was like people have been very nice. They've been very welcoming. And my Spanish has like come back in full force. And now I already, even though I've been here for a small time, I feel like way, way, way more confident. And I was like, wow, that was so huge. Just having people who aren't hyper critical and expecting everything to be perfect the whole time. And it's just made it so much easier. And I was thinking, wow, this would be really nice if I felt like the Japanese learning community was more like this. But I really don't feel like it is like that. I feel like Japanese people are like that. Maybe not like if you ask them, if you ask, I know there are some Japanese people who are like, they're tatemae and honne. But I do feel a lot of times like Japanese to foreign learners are way, 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 way nicer, obviously, and less like annoying than Japanese learners towards Japanese learners. And I know like France, go ahead, sir.
なんか面白いのがさ、よく YouTube の番組でなんだ、その celebrities の English がどれだけすごいのかをそのネイティブにジャッジしてもらったみたいなあるんだよ。この人は帰国子女レベル、それともアメリカ生まれ育ちレベル、それともなんだ、日本で頑張って自分で独学でペラペラになったみたいな、なんかそういうの結構あるんだけど、なんかジャッジングしてるやつあるんだよ。
Yeah, I basically just learned, it's like, because, I'm saying, I don't know how much true this is, but I've heard from everybody at this point how France apparently are just people, like French people, on average, from what I've heard, I haven't been there, are like assholes to people trying to use French. And to me, it's like the thing where you realize fundamentally that just because you want a result, being extremely critical and being extremely, in this case, I would like putting pressure and a bunch of anxiety around somebody, which, we've hopefully from what I've seen from my research does not help people learn languages, is making them worse. It's just making them worse. It doesn't matter how bad you want someone to be good at something. Making it is like put pressure, criticizing when they speak. All these things are not conductive. And I feel in a similar way that the stuff you're talking about, like rating people's English, like that, just the culture around that in general is just not healthy. And I've seen that, and like I said, we've talked about this in the perfection episode as well. But that is a thing in the Japanese learning community, and I just really don't understand. There's just no point. There is no point. Even, and I can't even think of any situation. It's just not. There is no like, what is the goal aside from entertainment? There's not a practical goal to it. There's not a test. Like them. Yeah, like I literally can't even think of a hypothetical goal. It's not even like, no, we need to, even like all the ways you could in your head be like, well, oh man, dude, these Panama be crazy. You guys might hear a bunch of random squeaking, squawkings and dogs and just other animals and like. 賑やかでいいですね。In Panama, there's no sense of
private
quiet.
Space. Oh yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, all I was saying is like, I don't think you could really make any logical argument to say like we're actually doing a service to language learning here. Oh, we don't want, because like let's think about the argument goes something like this. Oh, well, we don't want people to think that they actually are good at Japanese. You know what I'm saying? Like, how do you even phrase the argument? You're like, oh, the reason we need to critique them is so that you know that when you get that good at Japanese, that you still suck. You know what I'm saying? Like I literally don't know how you can make any argument for the the benefits of criticizing other people. Are they as good as a native speaker? Like, I don't know. I don't know if you thought about it, but like my experience, like I think I guess maybe I am coming down to how this came up as a topic. It just like I realized how beneficial it was not to have, and like in the literature, it bears this out as well from what I was looking at. But my personal experience is just here, like literally here for like a month or whatever, and like it's just been so huge. The majority of people having a very positive experience. I'm like, wow, it's really nice to be able to communicate with the language and not feel like you're constantly being criticized for not having perfect, Spanish or whatever in this case. Yeah. So those are my thoughts. Yeah, I want to say apologies, if this is just a bunch of sounds from all the Panamanian stuff, but it is what it is.
You're back.
戻りました。
Yep. I guess I can talk about my experience last week.
私マジで行きたいところについに行った。まあついにというか、あいみが行った私ではなく。
Yes. I went to my school, my university's school festival, and in the same day I also went to, how do you say, like town festival?
そうだな。
Yeah.
日本語文化祭と町の祭りみたいなことなのかな。
Yeah, exactly. So for school festival, it was for the first time in 4 years, I guess, because of COVID. We actually had school festival, but it was online. So technically, it was for the first time in 4 years to do that in person. But still, since my university is med school, we had to wear a mask, and also usually we have like food stands. Yeah, but this year they couldn't do food stand, so it was
食べ物なかったの?
No food.
屋台ゼロ?
Yeah, so it was just...
何やった?
So there
その祭りの 80% は食べ物なんだけど。
There were dance performances and orchestra and what else? 軽音楽部, like live music performances. And so like they did for 2 days, but I went on the first day. And on the second day, it seems like they had Japanese comedians. Yeah, they're like doing some comedy. What?
そのコメディ聞いたの?
No, I couldn't go there. Yeah. So
興味ある.
But yeah, there were some like famous comedians. So I wanted to go there, but I couldn't. So yeah. But overall, I just think that it would be more fun if we had food stands, and also like it's so insane that we still care about COVID. So
その COVID への気持ちは変わると思う。この話は多分毎年に3回ぐらいするけど、なんか変わった？なんでもいい。なんか
a little bit. I guess like how do you say, my kohais are kind of they don't give a shit because like they don't wear masks even though they're in how do you say, like school property.
マスクつけてないというのは病院の中でも
No, outside.
それとも外?
I mean, yeah, when they walk. But like, so teachers were kind of mad that my like kohai's ear, like kohai no gakunen, they don't wear masks, so they said that our ear should be like how do you say, like otehon?
お手本そう。
Yeah, like a model, role
それで
model. Yeah.
そのマスクをつけることはパワハラになってるだけってこと。
Yeah, it's just and
なん
then
ていうか
there's one teacher who is like too cautious about COVID, and then like he wears like double masks, and then yeah, he's a professor, and I have talked to him like a couple of times, and he said he took a test yesterday, and he did the same test like on the next day, like
毎
twice.
日やってる
I
なん
don't
で
know. I don't know.
祭りがあったから
No, I don't know.
何歳この人
I guess
自
like
分が
around
死ぬと思うか
60,
ら
50 something.
60歳
Yeah.
なるほどなんかいつ終わるのマジでなんか10年後にみんなマスクをつけてるかな
Yeah. I don't know.
そういうマジでもうなんか飽きた多分1年前に飽きた日本にいる時その病院以外のとこでみんなはマスクをつけてるのなんか電車の中だとか
Like I immediately take my mask off if I get on a train or bus and no one
いやでも
like,
周
stares
り
at
の
me.
人はつけてると聞いてる
No, actually like 80% of people, yeah, they don't wear masks.
あ、
yeah.
ついにそれはいい発展だな
Yeah, but the thing is, if I take a bus, how do you say like, at the bus stop close to my hospital, then the ratio is kind of high. Like, I don't know, like 80% of people wear masks. Yeah. So it depends on the place. Yeah, I'm at.
で、町の祭りはどうだった私めっち
It was
ゃ
pretty cool.
これは夏祭りに入るの意味的に
No,
は
I don't think so. It's already October, so it's like fall
じゃあ
festival.
秋だね
Yeah, it was like
秋祭り
Akimatsuri. Yeah, it was pretty packed. Yeah, it was super crowded, and like I don't know how many people came to the festival, but like it's literally you can walk without stopping, and there were some dashi. I don't know how to say.
だしっ
like
てスープの話
it's like mikoshi.
うん
I don't know how to say in English.
like what's it called the shrine maidens
いいかな
And-
なんか
oh,
that
no,
kind
no,
of
no,
stuff.
Mikoshi's the no, sorry, Mikoshi's the oh gosh, no, I'm talking about that's Miko. Mikoshi's like the large, what are they called? Like those, not statues, but they like
not
put
statue.
the frame of the object on their backs and they carry it around and they
Yeah,
have like
yeah, that
a
kind of
bunch
stuff.
on
But
top
it's
of
a
them.
cart.
The floats,
Actually,
they're kind of like
this time.
oh yeah, that's right. I remember seeing that in Tokyo.
Cart. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a very Japanese thing. It's like a celebratory like carriage, Japanese
Yeah,
carriage. sort of.
celebratory carriage. Yeah, that's a good way to put
Yeah.
it. Yeah, so that thing, there were many of them. And then, yeah, there were many food stands. So, yeah, we enjoyed. No, I went there with my friends, and yeah, we enjoyed the festival. And two of the people I went there with are from Germany, and they said it's really fun and it's kind of similar to their festival back in Germany. So yeah, I was like,
み
oh
んな
wow,
祭りある
really?
か。アメリカでは、まあ一応場所あるけど、ほぼそういうなんか小さい町、そのなんか、その小さい地域だけのならではの祭りがそんなに多くないと。
Oh really?
まあ、少なくと
So,
も
yeah.
私の個人的な経験からすると、なんかそういうことに参加したことがない。というか、見たことがない。めっちゃ行きたい。その祭りとか。残念。まあ、パナマでは、まあ一応あるけど、パナマ自体はそんなに多くない国だから、多分、町祭りよりかは国の 祭りみたい
yeah,
なこと
national.
がある
Yeah,
かも
yeah.
しれない。
But yeah, what they say was like the concept of having festivals, like how do you say, like town individually, is pretty similar, and also like
この町
they have like food stands and then yeah, that kind of stuff. So like
なんか
Yeah.
絶対言いたいのは本当に 100% の田舎の日本のお祭りみたい。
yeah, yeah, I've
なんか
never
わかる
yeah
そ
been
の
there.
60以上60歳以上の人としかいない北海道
That's
の
pretty
田舎の
depressing.
祭りなんかみんな長年のなんか20年30年の知り合いとかが結構いるから面白そう私行きたかった残念今でもなんか毎回この時も日本の、秋の終わりと冬の始まりぐらいに日本に行くけどその3回目でいつも同じ時期でこれが私が一番嫌いな時期、なんでこういうことになるんだと思っちゃう春じゃなくて夏でもないいつも秋と冬私が一番嫌いな時期ばっかりいや秋は冬よりいいけどその秋と夏の方がいいかな私にとってでもとりあえず行ってみたいな多分来年の夏に行けるかな夏祭りに行きたいめっちゃ
Yeah, summer festivals are fun. Yeah, I hope you can make it.
謎の未来楽しみにしてます。
Mm-hmm.
And we're back with the final section. And if you made it to the final section, that means you should send an email to lazyfluency@gmail.com with a comment, question, language related, and or otherwise. And this week we have a comment from Shaka, which I broke up into two. First one goes as follows. I definitely had the tourist ruin things experience. If I'm traveling, I rarely want to hit up a tourist location just because I know there are tons of other people there and I'll have to deal with that. And it isn't anything intrinsic with the location, it's just that I don't like crowds of people. And I don't really think that said tourist location is worth dealing with the people. I think we're definitely getting into controversial territory, but it's the fun kind where I don't really have one correct answer to get behind. I like to think everything should be accessible, but I also run into the same things that you mentioned. First, the whole world is accessible regardless of English being regardless of English being somewhere or not. It might be a little harder to know the language or not know the language, but comparing Google Translate's image translation thing now versus carrying language dictionaries around 20 years ago, I'd argue the whole world, language-wise, is very accessible to the most first world people. I get what you're saying for ruining the purity and essence of things. Video games should be accessible as a whole. Dark Souls not having a difficulty setting makes that one experience inaccessible. But video games as a whole still are. In that particular experience, adding difficulty settings would ruin the experience since there isn't really anything to experience outside of the experimental world or storytelling that you get through learning the game. Put elevators in apartments. Don't put an elevator on Mount Everest. So, thanks for the long comment, Shakas. We'll get to another part of your comment in a second here. I guess this was kind of the focus, I think, of our comment. Obviously, there are a lot of things I find annoying about tourists, but yeah, more so than anything is the number. And no hate, but when I think of, everybody knows what I'm talking about. Like, when you live, there's a thing, and I don't know what it is. And I don't know what you viewed it is, but for some reason, and this is not a race, I'm not trying to do race wars between Japan, China, and Korea. All I'm saying is if there's any country that seems to be famous for moving with groups of 30 people, for some reason, it's Chinese tourists. I don't know what the deal is. And I don't know if they all go on these like packaged together. But whether it be America or Japan, every time I'm like just chill and have a good time. And then a group of 30 people fly in. And then, go ahead.
One good thing about that is you can get a free tour guide. Just listening to them.
Tourist I feel like I understand the appeal in my head because like I follow a YouTuber called Told in Stone with he does videos on Roman, just everything. And I like getting additional perspective is helpful, but yeah, I think this falls in the category of I feel like there has to be a better way. And what was your opinion? Like, do you think if it made it so that you had to like plan ahead like months in advance for everywhere you go, if like more places, and I don't mean like a store, I mean like a section, let's say to like get into oh god, this would be so controversial, but let's say like to get into the general area of, let me think, like what is it, what's like a famous place in Kyoto, I'm trying to think, like are there districts?
清水寺とか
Yeah, Kiyomizu-dera. Let's say like that whole there's a whole general area around Kiyomizu-dera. Let's say just to get into it, not into the Kiyomizu-dera, but to get into that general area, you need to like show your passport, and if it's not a Japanese passport, then you need to like have registered in advance online before you can go there. And then because it's Kyoto, you're gonna get like a wait list for up to a month before you could actually attend.
それやりすぎや
but they do that for things like the Studio Ghibli. Okay, let's say if it wasn't, let's say if it wasn't for like the area, but just like because maybe you'd have the same effect. Let's say to actually go and watch, it was on a like wait list system for Kiyomizu-dera or some other location. Because I don't know why they haven't considered that. Like, there's a whole problem with tourism in Kyoto, supposedly, where they have the locals at least complain about it, where they have too much people. I feel like if they just took the big sites and said ahead of time, you have to register to visit if you are on a travel visa.
でもさ、あれじゃない、なんかそういうのはさ、お寺とか神社ではできるかもしれないけど、その何かというとそういうやつはさ、入り口とか出口があるからさ。でもさ、京都ってもうホータウンがさ、もうなんか観光地みたいな感じだからさ、入り口も出口も何もそういう概念がないじゃん。だし、あと嵐山とかさ、その竹がすごいエリアねとかだってさ、その自然だからさ、なんていうんだ、そういうレギュレーションしようがないんじゃない？
Well, hold up. My thing is, there are different densities, right? I feel like there are hot spots in Kyoto. And I'm saying if you at least made people had to like wait list ahead of time, I think you would reduce those hotspots and people would still come to Kyoto. I really don't think you'd be stopping people from coming to Kyoto. People don't know much about, like, people go to Kiyomizu-dera just because it's a place that people go to. But there aren't that many, the majority of people aren't scholars of Japanese history. They're just like, oh, but look, that looks cool. And there's a whole bunch of places in Kyoto that just like you know, that look cool. So I feel like if you just had some wait list on some of the big places, you would spread out the population at the very least.
なんかでもそれはなんていうの、一理あるよね。なんか人気だからみんながいいって言ってるから行くっていうのはさ、まあ必ずしもあるよね。だって例えばさ、レストランだってさ、まあなんていうの、5 stars のところの方が行きたいじゃん、その1 star だけのところよりは。でもその1 star はさ、必ずしもさ悪いってわけじゃないんだけど、でも行った人がつける評価が1 star だから行きたくないってなるじゃん。なんかそれとなんかなんていうんだろう、リスクを冒したくないし、なんかみんながいいと言ってるから行きたいっていうのもある気がする。
Yeah, that's like the issue. I think like video games or movies have this problem with with rating sites where if you're not someone who's like really into the medium or genre, I don't want to say expert, let's say,
何も知らない人だとそうなんだよ。
Yeah, you kind of forced to rely on like general, not even consent. I don't know if it's consensus, but like the algorithms. You're like forced to rely on the algorithms.
そうだし、あと調べるときだってそうじゃない、なんかなんていうの、must go places in Kyoto とかって検索するとさ、絶対いろんな人が行ってるところが出てくるじゃん、トップリストの中に。そう、なんかちっちゃい。
It's funny because the first time when I was in Kyoto for 3 months, I barely went to any of the places that were super popular. Not because I was being hipster. I literally just, most of my approach for like, okay, guys, I like the idea of history, but I'm not a history buff at all. Like, if history shows up in anime, I'll read about it, but I'm not, and so generally speaking, I'm like, and I'm not, Shinto is cool. If I had to make I'm not going to make a tier list of the religions, but generally speaking, religion makes me go, in all forms, even though I do think, I do think Shinto and Buddhism have some stuff, cool about them, but I'm just saying, like, my most, like, as I talk about Book Off my video, my favorite place in Japan was Book Off. Although I do love, I do have grown, to get more appreciation of more of the things like that. But my other thing is my strat particularly was just walking around and seeing what was cool. And I really enjoyed that. But I did get a lot of shit from my host mother who's like, oh, you haven't been to this place or that place. You should really go. And I was like, but I want to go to Book Off for the 8th time. And then I went to Book Off and I don't regret it. Anyways, next comment. This is next comment from Shotcox. This actually relating to algorithms we were talking about earlier. So this is what he said. I've been doing SEO stuff for online sites, and one that reminds me of the thumbnailing is titling for Amazon products. I personally hate it. I think they're horrible. Unfortunately, search engines love them, and as a customer, I tend to also look into titles or something like that as well. The descriptions are pretty rough too. Images are chill though. Examples: website title, assorted taffy Amazon title, website title, assorted taffy, Amazon title, sweet candy, original salt water taffy assortment, delicious chewy candy, individually wrapped, classic nostalgia candies, 3 pounds, approximately 210 pieces. Guess which one gets more traffic? Yeah, I'm really battling with this thing, and especially with I feel like the podcast. Like with the main channel, I have like more of my energy be like, okay, Joe, we got let's maximize SEO, let's try to do some more. But dude, the podcast ones are I've seen other podcasts, and it just and maybe I might do a little experiment right now, and also Tropical Rain. But I really don't want to have the Japanese listening, Japanese podcast, free Japanese 500 things before the title. But because there's a tropical rainstorm, I'll let you speak on this. How do you feel about our thumbnail title problem?
そもそも SEO ってなんだ？
Search Engine Optimization.
ああ、なるほどね。どれが一番検索されるかね。
Yeah.
ちょっと待ってね。これさ、ショコックスがさ、どれが一番売れるか、ちょっとこれやりたいわ。
Oh no! He's saying that's an actual example because Shotcox does candy. He works with candy. I don't know if it's shop or whatever, but with the general production. So he's saying he's doing some online SEO stuff for candy, and he's saying that's what they actually use on Amazon. The name that he just did.
あ、そうなの？これ何？question じゃないの？どれが一番売れるみたいな。
No. It's a rhetorical question. The one that gets more traffic is definitely the sweet candy, original saltwater taffy assortment, delicious chewy candy, individually wrapped, classic nostalgia candy, 3 pound, approximately 210 pieces.
Approximately 210 pieces. 私最後のやついいと思うけど。
No, that's what he's saying. He's saying that gets more traffic.
待って、最後のやつが一番traffic なの？
Yes. That's what he's saying. He's saying that you have to play by the algorithm because there's so many keywords. It's just a keyword soup. Here's my thing. As a background as a both techie and humanitarian, STEM and IT guy, STEM and humanities dude, my heart is in the humanities, but I'm also aware of the IT. But when it comes to YouTube, it's just I feel like I just get more and more what's it called? Not pessimistic, but I don't know what the word is. Dejected with the state of algorithms, where I'm like, someday the podcast title might be something like free Japanese listening, native Japanese speaker, English listening practice, daily conversation, 3 cool Japanese terms you can use. We're still talking about episode 87, and then I don't know. Go ahead.
タイトル、やっぱりタイトルってさ、ユニークにしたいじゃん。で、なんて言うんだろう、一般的なさ、さっきの中で箇条書きみたいになられてるようなタイトルだとさ、検索にはいいかもしれないけど、やっぱりつまんないじゃん。だから、一つの道としては、ハッシュタグをつけて、広告の宣伝するときにね、ハッシュタグで、そういう、なんて言うんだろう、検索エンジンにかかるような、 ワードをねいっぱい敷き詰めとけば、まあ、検索
It's not actually good. The titles seem to do more work with hashtags. I see people like one of the things that I've been trying to do is like reference or look at what other people get like more engagement reviews and stuff and see what and it's I know it. I already know what to do. I don't do it.
まあね、なんか、ジレンマじゃない。
It's the battle. Sorry, go ahead.
Dilemma.
Yeah, it's the battle of someone who doesn't view YouTube as a business product versus someone who does. I feel like there are plenty of people who are about like SEO maxing, and I really just don't care. But I will say at the very least, just if you checked, I think I have officially changed all the thumbnails. I do like how they turned out, and I still feel like they retained an element of uniqueness. So, and the worst part is it's working. I don't know if that's a bad thing or a good thing. I mean, it's a good thing, I guess, but at the same time, it just annoys me at the same time. But yeah, those are my thoughts on that. Apologies for the noise this episode, guys. I really don't know. I can't stop Panama. I'll be in Japan in a bit here, and it'll be a lot quieter. So look forward to that. Better audio quality. That bell means we reached the end of today's episode. Thanks for joining us, another lazy conversation towards fluency. If you have any language-related questions and are just looking for general advice, send an email to lazyfluency@gmail.com and we might respond in the next episode. Also, make sure to check out our podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and more. We'd appreciate the support. This has been Joey.
And Ayami.
Signing off.
Jenny.